Hello everyone, welcome to SplitSecond. My name is Sequeira and today I'll be taking you through our EDH monthly special. This month, our theme is Tribal. Before starting, we at SplitSecond want to thank everyone for your constant support and suggestions on all social media. We also want to say that, due to the pandemic, we will not be able to show you more Paper Magic gameplay after today's, until our country's state of emergency is called off. Instead, we will be looking to provide you guys with different content. Right now, we're considering more deck techs or digital gameplays. Maybe you guys have some content ideas of what you'd like to see. Finally, we have suspended all Patreon billings for the month of April. We appreciate all support, but want you guys to be able to take care of yourselves and stay safe during these trying times. Now, it's time to get into the fun. This week, we're bringing you me piloting Zombie Tribal with Gisa and Geralf, Brandão with Wizard Tribal led by Inalla. Our friend and guest, Flávio Margato, is packing a Goblin Tribal with Wort Boggart Auntie. And finally, Baal is running a merfolk Tribal led by Kumena. Let's check our starting hands. I am starting this week, and I have a fairly explosive start thanks to the Mana Crypt and the Talisman of Dominance. With my Swamp and Cephalid Colosseum, this could mean 5 mana on turn 2. I also have an Undead Aggro for drawing cards, Forgotten Creation to look for better hands while putting relevant zombies in my graveyard, and a Demonic Tutor to search for a win con once my board is set. Luis's hand is a bit slower, even if it has good potential for shenanigans. He has a Misty Rainforest and a Mystic Sanctuary as lands, a Dimir Signet for ramp, and Wishclaw Talisman as a tutor option. He also has a Sigil Tracer and Scholar of the Ages as ways to win or to do weird explosive stuff. Finally, he has a Thousand Year Storm for his overwhelming spellcasting turns. Margato's hand also has a lot of potential thanks to Dockside Extortionist and Frog Tosser Banneret. Granzo Havoc Razor is a great way to gain gas during the game, while Kiki-Jiki with the Dockside Extortionist is all sorts of silly. Goblin Trashmaster is super effective with the Kiki-Jiki. Margato only has a Sculling Tarn and a Westvale Abbey as lands, but he should be okay. Finally, Baal has some good aggro and card draw potential with his Curse Catcher, Sigil Tracer, and Deeproot Elite, plus the Kumena on his command zone. His lands are Command Tower and Sculling Tarn. He has an Utopia Sprawl for ramp and a Force of Vigor if someone gets out of control. Time to get this special up and running. I start my turn by setting the game's tone. Mana Crypt into Talisman of Dominance and a Swamp. I cast Undead Aggro, taking 1 damage from the Talisman, and pass. Luis starts slow. He didn't draw land, so he puts the Mystic Sanctuary on the battlefield tapped. He passes. Margato plays a Narid Mesa and goes to his end step. Baal thinks for a bit, and I feel like I might be under his scope. He ends up going to his turn. He plays a Sculling Tarn and cracks it for a Tropical Island, which he enchants with the Utopia Sprawl for blue. He passes to me. On my upkeep, I win the Crypt roll. I play the Cephalid Colosseum and cast my commander. I mill a Crypt Breaker, Bontu's Monument, Ancient Tomb, and Underground Sea. I lose 1 life to the Talisman and cast the Crypt Breaker from my graveyard. I go to combat and attack Margato. Both Luis and Baal ask me why I insist on trying to kill our guests. He takes 2 damage and I pass. Luis plays a Misty Rainforest and cracks it for a Volcanic Island. He casts the Dimir Signet and goes to his end step. Margato cracks his Mesa for a tapped Blood Crypt. Margato also decides he wants to try and get more treasures with the Dockside, so he plays a Frog Tosser Banneret this turn and uses him to attack Luis before passing. Baal plays a Misty Rainforest and cracks it for a basic island just because Margato is packing 2 moon effects. He casts the Sigil Tracer and passes. During my upkeep, I lose the Crypt roll. I cast a Demonic Tutor. I'm still not sure why Baal had stuttered during Margato's previous end step, so I crack my brain. I realized it was probably a Force of Vigor, which meant that getting Contamination was a bad move. I decide to get a Gravecrawler instead because he's a pretty solid combo piece. I cast him and pass. Luis filters mana with his Signet to cast Mystic Remora followed by a Grim Monolith. He passes. Margato plays his Westvale Abbey. He casts a Dockside Extortionist for 1 mana, looking extra disgusting. Baal responds with a Force of Vigor by exiling the Deeproot Elite from his hand and confirming my suspicions. He triggers the Remora and Luis draws a card. Baal decides to remove both of my mana artifacts, which I complain is overkill when Luis has a Monolith in play. Margato gets 4 treasure tokens. Then, he casts a Kiki-Jiki Mirror Breaker, sacrificing all but 1 of his treasures, and uses it to put a copy of the Dockside in play. He increases the treasure count to 5. He then casts the Goblin Trash Master and, keeping up with the Goblin Storm, a Granzo Havoc Razor. This was a pretty big turn and it's not over yet. Of course, I'm now in my corner laughing and going, someone deal with Pedro's board state stat. Margato goes to combat and he also enters our ever-increasing Mitra Club. Because his turn was so long, Margato and the rest of us forget that Dockside Extortionist had only entered this turn. He ends up declaring the Extortionist as an attacker as well. We only noticed this while editing the video and it didn't influence the outcome of the game, as you can see in the next few turns. He attacks Luis with the Banneret and Baal with both Dockside and a copy. We believe that Granzo triggered 3 times when he only had triggered 2. With the triggers, he chooses to goad Baal's Sigil Tracer and to exile the top card of both players' libraries. Luis exiles the Nabon and Baal exiles the Shapers of Nature. Margato doesn't cast either. Before his turn ends, he sacrifices the Dockside copy with the Trash Master, destroying Luis's Signet. He passes to Baal. Baal plays his Command Tower. He then casts his Curse Catcher and the Kumena. Because Sigil Tracer was mistakenly goaded, Baal decides to use Kumena's ability to tap 3 merfolk and draw a card, so to avoid wasting an attack with the Sigil. Before his end step, I activate the Crypt Breaker, tapping 3 zombies, losing 1 life and also drawing a card. On my turn, I play a basic swamp. Set behind by having lost 2 artifacts, I cast a Lord of the Accursed to bump up my zombie count. I attack Margato with my Gravecrawler and go to my end step. Margato sacrifices his Banneret and destroys Luis's Grim Monolith with the Trash Master. On his upkeep, Luis plays mana to sustain the fish. He draws and plays a Polluted Delta and gets a swamp. He casts a Demonic Tutor for Toxic Deluge before passing. Margato goes to his turn and top decks a Combat Celebrant. We're all surprised, himself included, but this means he wins the game. Basically, he taps the Kiki-Jiki to copy the Celebrant with haste. The Celebrant attacks and exerts, and tapping the Kiki-Jiki, which is then tapped to put another Celebrant onto the battlefield, and so on. Even if we have blockers, eventually they'll die to combat damage, followed by us. Margato has broken the Guest Curse with this well-earned victory. However, this was a short match, so he still chose to shuffle up and get ready for another round. Let's have some more fun. Luis is starting our round number 2. He was unlucky to the point where he had to mulligan down to 5 and still didn't get a great hand. Dockside Extortionist is great for ramp, Spell Pierce is decent interaction, and Unearth can enable some combos with his deck. That aside, he also found 4 lands, Underground Sea, Flooded Strand, and he sent both Spirebluff Canal and Wooded Foothills to the bottom of his library. Margato has a pretty decent hand. He has a Mox Diamond for ramp and a potential Metallic Mimic on turn 1, which can bump his Granzo Dungeon Warden on turn 2. He also has a Polluted Delta, a Mountain, and a Swamp. Baal kept 3 lands, Tropical Island, Flooded Strand, and an island. He can use one of them to fuel his Mox Diamond. He also has a Dacra Mystique, which could be played on turn 1, a Mental Misstep, and a Rishkar Pima Renegade for ramp and shenanigans. My hand is slower this time around. I can ramp with the Talisman of Dominus, and I have Phyrexian Altar, which is good ramp, a combo piece, and a good way to abuse the Ogre once Gisa and Geralf are out. I have a Noxious Gold to wither the rest of the table and 3 lands, Misty Rainforest, City of Brass, and a Swamp. Let's get to round 2. Luis starts with a simple Flooded Strand before passing. Margato has more things he can do. He plays a Mox Diamond. He discards a basic mountain from his hand once the spell resolves, followed by a swamp, and follows up with a Metallic Mimic naming Goblin. We're all pretty shocked he didn't name Squirrel instead. He passes. Baal also starts with Mox Diamond, discarding a Flooded Strand since he already has a Tropical Island at hand. He plays that and casts the Dacra Mystic before passing. On my turn, all I can do is play Misty Rainforest before going to my end step. Luis cracks his Flooded Strand for a basic island just to make sure no Blood Moon catches him off guard. Luis plays a City of Brass. He's fairly happy that some of the players decided to start fast, and he shows it by playing his own Dockside Extortionist and getting 3 treasure tokens in play. He also plays a Mox Opal. He passes to Margato. Margato plays a Polluted Delta and cracks it for a Badlands. He casts Granzo Dungeon Warden, leaving 1 mana untapped and threatening some interaction. He attacks me before passing. This is his revenge for getting First Blood on him the last game. Baal plays a basic island. He then casts Rishkar Pima Renegade and puts a +1/+1 counter on both creatures on his side of the battlefield. He goes to his end step and I crack my Rainforest for a tapped Watery Grave because I'm not scared of no Blood Moon. I look at my options and choose to play an Underground Sea. I'm trying to bait the Blood Moon here. Afterwards, I play an Undead Ogre. I pass. Luis also plays his Underground Sea. He casts a Wishclaw Talisman and activates it for a Spellseeker, offering the talisman to me. Luis casts the Spellseeker, threatening to win. Margato fully shows us why he wasn't greedy with the Granzo and casts Pyroblast to counter the Spellseeker. Luis loses 1 life to the City of Brass and casts a Spell Pierce on the Pyroblast. Baal responds and loses 2 life, countering the Spell Pierce with his Mental Misstep. Luis passes the turn. On his turn, Margato misses a land drop. He goes to combat and hits my face once again, ignoring my innocent protests. All I have is 1 tutor with the Wishclaw. He passes. Baal starts by putting a Verdant Catacombs on the battlefield. He cracks it for a basic forest. Then he casts his Kumena and passes, not showing any interest in whacking at our faces. On my turn, I play a basic swamp and cast Gleaming Overseer, which is a combo card, creating a 1/1 zombie army token with Menace and Death Touch so that Margato starts attacking someone else. I pass the turn. Luigi is once again ready to try and get things done. He casts an Unearth targeting his Spellseeker. Margato considers activating the Granzo, but we conclude it's better to wait and see because we might need to remove the Dockside or the Spellseeker once Brandão tries to get it going. The Spellseeker enters the battlefield, triggering itself and Inalla. Luigi resolves the Spellseeker trigger first and searches for an Essence Flux. He casts it, targeting his Dockside Extortionist. Margato responds and activates the Granzo, revealing a mountain. Baal also responds, tapping for 3 mana and casting a Beast Within on Luis's Dockside Extortionist. Luis trades a 1/2 body for a 3/3 body, so lucky for him. Luis takes 1 damage with the City of Brass and copies the Spellseeker. He tutors for a Demonic Tutor. The Spellseeker copy attacks Margato. Luis passes. Margato goes to his turn and doesn't find another land to play. He is forced to pass. Baal also doesn't find a land, although he says he found a fun card. Not having a 3rd merfolk to cast, he passes to me. On my turn, I'm fairly ready to win this game. I play a City of Brass. Then, I cast Phyrexian Altar. Baal responds and activates the Dakra Mystic. Margato responds with a Vampiric Tutor and I realize I'm screwed. He finds an Abrade and puts it on top of the library. We all reveal for the Mystic. I have a Blink of an Eye that actually works well against Margato's Abrade. Luis has a Spell Stutter Sprite and Baal has a Polluted Delta. Baal chooses for us to draw the card. Because of Margato's Abrade, I am forced to pass the turn. Margato doesn't cast Abrade because I can save my combo piece with a Blink of an Eye, and since it's still my turn, destroying the Wishclaw Talisman would still let me tutor for something like Gravecrawler. It's an interesting impasse. Luis plays a tapped Steam Vents. He wants to keep the Spell Starter Sprite available, so he passes without attacking. Margato activates the Granzo on Luis's end step, putting a Westvale Abbey onto his graveyard. Margato is still mana screwed and unable to play anything. He passes. Baal draws and once again celebrates without telling us what it is. He plays the Polluted Delta and cracks it for a basic island. He then shows us why he was so excited. He plays an Oko Thief of Crowns. This shows us a lot about Baal's personality. After a very long consideration, he turns the Wishclaw Talisman into a 3/3 green elk. Baal passes. I start my turn by playing an Urborg Tomb of Yawgmoth. Now that there's a Oko to annoy us, I cast Blink of an Eye on Kumena. Then I attack Oko with my elk and Margato with the zombie army token. None of them blocks, so I sacrifice my Overseer to the altar to gain 1 black mana, draw a card and lose 1 life with the Augur. Then, I return the token to my hand and replace it with a Fallen Shinobi. I exile a Granzo, Havoc Razor, and a Pashalik Mons, both of which are pretty decent, especially considering the altar. On my second main phase, I cast both goblins without paying for their mana cost and pass. Luis cracks a Bloodstained Mire for a swamp. He casts Necropotence, losing 1 life to the City of Brass. He activates it 5 times just to refill his hand. His deck can combo at instant speed, but he lacks the mana to do it reliably this time around. He goes to his end step and Margato activates the Granzo, finding a Lightning Crafter. I respond to the champion trigger. I sacrifice my Granzo with the Phyrexian Altar, triggering Pashalik and killing the Metallic Mimic so that Margato's only option is the Granzo. Margato champions the Granzo to the Crafter's trigger. Luis puts 5 cards in his hand and Margato gets to his turn. Margato still isn't finding a land. He goes to the end step and Baal activates the Dacron Mystic. He reveals a Sculling Tarn, I reveal an Agent of Erebos, Louise as a Gitaxian Probe, and Margato as a Goblin Chieftain. Baal decides we all put the guards in our graveyards. Baal starts his turn by turning the Lightning Crafter into an elk. Margato responds by activating it and killing the Oko. He didn't do it preemptively because he had no way of knowing that Baal would prefer to kill the Lightning Crafter over my fallen Shinobi. The champion beat of the Crafter is no longer relevant, so he moved the Granzo to exile. He activates the Dacron Mystic, revealing a Rootwater Hunter. I reveal a Zombie War Chief, Luis a Grim Monolith, and Margato a Treasure Nabber. We once again mill the cards, even if Baal really wanted another merfolk. He just didn't like giving these cards to us. He casts the Kumena and passes. I play a basic swamp. I go to combat and attack Margato with a Fallen Shinobi, exiling a City of Brass and a Swamp, and feeling extra dumb for not having saved my land drop for my second main phase. Margato also feels bad for losing 2 consecutive lands, so we're all good. On my second main phase, I cast Gisa and Geralf, milling a Plague Belcher, a Contamination much to everyone else's joy, an Arcane Signet, and a Kalitas, Trader of Get. I think for a bit and cast a Wheat of Precinct 6, which is a vanilla 7/7. I pass. Luis starts by playing a Misty Rainforest. He casts the Demonic Tutor, fetching for Damnation. He then cracks the Rainforest for a Mystic Sanctuary, returning his tutor to the top of his library. He goes to combat and attacks Margato for 4. Then, he casts the Damnation, losing 1 life. Baal generates 1 green mana with the Rish card. I sacrifice the Wheat with the Altar, generating 1 blue mana, losing 1 life and drawing a card. Then, I sacrifice the Wishclaw Elk for black mana and cast a Drown in the Loch, targeting the Damnation. Baal asks Margato to try and abrade the altar now for storm count purposes. Margato does just that. I respond, sacrificing the Fallen Shinobi for blue mana and another card, and the Ogre for another blue mana and a card. The abrade resolves, finally killing my altar. With a favorable storm count, Baal casts a Flusterstorm, targeting my Drown in the Loch. Then, my counterspell also gets countered and the Damnation resolves, killing the remaining creatures. The Pashalik Mon dies and I ping Luis. Luis activates the Necropotence 3 times, goes to his end step and discards and exiles a Narset Parter of Veils. Margato goes to his turn and responsibly Demonic Tutors for a Nihil Spellbomb, proclaiming himself a man of the people. I hope that Luis's grave looks tastier than mine. Margato passes. Baal draws and plays a basic forest, complaining a bit. He casts the Kumena and passes to me. On my turn, I draw and laugh at my own draw and the irony behind it. I finally cast my Talisman of Dominance. Then I put a Noxious Goal in play before passing. During his turn, Luis casts a Demonic Tutor. He picks up a landfall and passes without activating the Necropotence, indicating some hidden plan. Margato still isn't finding a land. He casts a Frog Tosser Banneret, which acts as ramp, although my Noxious Ghoul might take it out. He attacks Luis and passes. Baal plays a tapped Breeding Pool. Kumena attacks Luis to take out some card draw potential. He passes to me. On my turn, I cast a Death Baron. It triggers a Noxious Ghoul and takes out the Banneret. I deal 4 damage to Luis with my Ghoul's attack and pass to him. Luis tries to flash in a Notion Thief, which makes me suspicious of a wheel. I immediately cast Mana Drain on it, losing 1 life. Because Luis is tapped out, Margato chooses to really send him back by sacrificing the Spell Bomb and taking out his entire graveyard while paying 1 black mana to draw a card. Luis untaps. He is in a tight corner now. He casts a Mystical Tutor to check his library and picks up an Entomb. He decides he needs to go all out or otherwise he'll just die. He pays 13 life for the Necropotence and goes to his end step. He casts the Entomb for a Magus of the Mind, which is similar to a Mind's Desire. He taps his City of Brass and is now at 1 life. He uses the mana to cast a Corpse Dance targeting the Magus. When the Magus enters the battlefield, Inalla triggers. He activates the Magus in response and loses his last mana. He reveals a Chrome Mox, a Frantic Search, and a Polluted Delta. He can only cast a Search, drawing 2 and discarding a Ponder and a Preordain, while untapping 3 lands and getting an additional Storm Count. The discarded cards are exiled because of Necropotence. Luis then casts a Brainstorm. After this, Luis pays for the Inalla trigger and gets a copy of the Magus of the Mind. He sacrifices it and exiles 5 cards, hoping to find rituals and a way to win at instant speed. He exiles a Chain of Vapor, a Remand, a Dimir Signet, an Izet Signet, and a Springleaf Drum. Seeing no way out, Luis casts the Chain of Vapor on my Noxious Ghoul just to be responsible. I ponder taking out Margato's mocks but decide not to waste any time. The chain resolves and Luis passes. Margato plays a Goblin Warchief. He attacks Baal, prolonging Luis's pain. Baal is still flooded. He plays a Windswept Heath and attacks me with the Kumena. At the beginning of my turn, I promised Luis I am not going to attack him. On my first main phase, I had 4 colorless mana from the mana drain. I play a Bojuka Bog, which was drawn after Margato cast Deny Heal Spellbomb. I exile Margato's graveyard. Then I cast a Noxious Ghoul, which triggers. I keep my promise to Luis, and instead of attacking him, I cast a Grey Merchant of Asphodel. Luis dies, and everyone else loses 6 life, while I gain a total of 18. The Goblin Warchief dies to the Ghoul's second trigger. I attack Baal with the Death Baron and pass. Margato plays a Goblin Surgeon and goes to his end step. Baal cracks the Windswept Heath to try and thin the deck just a little bit. On his turn, Baal casts an Intruder Alarm, he passes. Now that I'm playing, I decide to cast a Liliana Untouched by Death to try and win faster. Baal casts a Force of Will to make things harder on me. I attack him with both of my Death Touch zombies, dealing 7 damage. On my second main phase, I cast an Unstable Obelisk, which is one of my only solutions to rest in peace, and Grafdigger's Cage. I pass. Margato finally finds and plays a Swamp. He attacks me for 0 just for the memes and casts the Wart, untapping all creatures. He passes. Baal is still not finding a merfolk to abuse the Intruder Alarm. He casts a Thassa's Oracle and looks at the top 4 cards of his library, putting 1 on top and the rest on the bottom. He passes. I find and cast a Demonic Tutor. I have no way to combo fast, so instead I decide to use my board in my favor. I get a Flashback Marauder. I cast a Lord of the Accursed, triggering the Ghoul. I then cast the Flashback Marauder and order the triggers for my Noxious Ghoul to go first and then the Marauder. Margato responds and sacrifices the Surgeon to regenerate the Oracle. Then the Marauder takes out Wort, Kumena, and itself. I attack Margato and pass. Margato casts a Goblin Recruiter, triggering the alarm. He makes it simple for us, showing only a Dockside Extortionist because he knows I can kill him next turn. Baal recasts the Kumena and passes. On my turn, I activate the Lord of the Accursed and give all my zombies menace. Then I cast Cemetery Reaper, untapping my Lord of the Accursed and killing the Recruiter. I play a Blast Zone. I attack Margato with Lethal and Baal with 15. Before dying, Margato casts a Rakdos Charm and exiles my graveyard. Our guest has fallen. Baal casts a Marrow Commerce. He taps 3 merfolks with his Kumena to draw 1 card. Because he's pushed into a corner, he casts a Dramatic Reversal and activates the Kumena again. He casts a Deeproot Elite, triggering the alarm and untapping all creatures. It would be very ironic if he won this turn. It should be noted that Baal accidentally untapped the Commerce, but it didn't affect the turn's outcome. He taps 3 merfolk to draw a card. He plays a Gaia's Cradle and goes to his end step. On his end step, Baal untaps all merfolks he controls due to the Merfolk Commerce. I activate the Lord of the Accursed to give all my zombies menace. Then I activate the Cemetery Reaper and exile the Rishkar, triggering the Intruder Alarm and the Noxious Ghoul. Baal responds and tries to draw a card with Kumena. I respond to the draw and cast Cyclonic Rift on the Kumena itself. The creatures untap and the Elite dies to my Noxious Ghoul. I have enough damage on the table to win uncontested now, and so the zombies go for Baal's brains. Thanks for following us through this match, everyone. Goblins and zombies took the tribal matches. We'd like to start the credits by thanking our current patrons, and especially Izanagi, Carneiro, Troy, Stefan, TJ Rapp, and Mike Purr, our Starkbreakers. If you want to go through other Commander adventures, click one of the videos on the right. If you want to talk with us about our games or other EDH related matters, join us on Discord. And don't forget to support us by liking, subscribing, or becoming a patron yourself. Come join us again next week for another video from SplitSecond. See you then!